good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for wherever your location is on the planet. My name is Pate, and before I get into this information about the new continent that geologists are claiming, I want to give you some insightful details about the fantastic country called New Zealand, which is considered one of the top 5 best countries to live in. New Zealand's capital is called Wellington. Its largest city is Auckland. The official languages of New Zealand are English, Maori, and New Zealand Sign Language. The ethnic groups as of 2013 in New Zealand are 74% European, 14.9% Maori, 11.8% Asian, 7.4% Pacific peoples, and 1.2% Middle Eastern, Latin American, and African. Lastly, 1.7% others. The governing standing of New Zealand is a unitary parliamentary constitutional monarchy, and the controlling monarch, Queen Elizabeth II of England. The estimated population as of 2017 for New Zealand is 4,766,410. The currency of New Zealand is the New Zealand dollar. Just like in England, New Zealanders drive on the left side of the road. New Zealand is also an island nation in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. As well, New Zealand is situated some 1,500 kilometers, or about 900 miles, east of Australia across the Tasman Sea, and roughly 1,000 kilometers, or about 600 miles south of the Pacific Island areas of New Caledonia, Fiji, and Tonga. Moreover, because of its remoteness, it was one of the last lands to be settled by humans. The native peoples of New Zealand are the Maori culture, which is, as I mentioned, only 14.9% of the population. Further, in 1642, Dutch explorer Abel Tasman became the first European to sight New Zealand. In 1840, representatives of Britain and Maori chiefs signed the Treaty of Waitangi, which declared British sovereignty over the island. In 1840. In 1841, New Zealand became a colony within the British Empire, and in 1907, it became a dominion. Dominion status was a public mark of the political independence that had evolved over a half a century through responsible government. Today, the majority of New Zealand's population of 4.7 million is of European descent. The indigenous Maori are the largest minority, followed by Asians and Pacific Islanders. Reflecting this, New Zealand's culture is mainly derived from the Maori and early British settlers, with recent broadening arising from increased immigration. And lastly, New Zealand is a developed country and ranks highly in international comparisons of national performance, such as health, education, economic freedom, and quality of life. As a footnote, British explorer James Cook subsequently named the country New Zealand. Now, this month here in February 2017, scientists are claiming a new continent.
Topkats, Rebels Connection.
I don't know if you've heard about this new continent that the geologists are claiming, but it is something that is actual fact. This new continent is called Zealandia, spelled Zealandia. The continent is 2/3 the size of Australia. The continent is beneath the water in the South Pacific Ocean. 94% of the continent is still underwater. The highest points of the landmass are above water, which are New Zealand and New Caledonia, or New Caledonia. The landmass is 1.7 million square miles. Zealandia is believed to have been broken away from Australia about 80 million years ago and sank beneath the sea. Nick Mortimer, a geologist at GNS Science in Dunedin, New Zealand, was the lead author of the paper titled Zealandia, Earth's Hidden Continent. He also has a book out. Scientists reported on this new still submerged continental find in the Journal of the Geological Society of America. Zealandia, if accepted by the scientific community, will make it official and cause cartographers to add an 8th continent to future world maps and atlases. By the way, for those who are wondering, there are 7 continents on our planet. Those continents are Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. This information is very, very interesting because, as I mentioned, 94% of Zealandia is still underwater. And that's what's pretty baffling to me, that the geologists are considering this continent, this sunken continent, to be officially a continent, although it's still underwater. Around the planet, there are many sunken, still underwater bodies of land that very well could also be considered a continent. For example, Hawaii is part of a continent that is still underwater. So why don't they consider Hawaii, which is part of a landmass that is sunken, a continent as well? I was just thinking during the break there, during that musical injection, that if you're a lot like me, what you probably realize is that there's been quite a few revelations going on. And I have to just give a little bit of respect to the mainstream media because they've actually been helping out with disclosing many secrets, or should I say, that's a little bit too much respect. I should say they have been doing their part to help in disclosing whatever they can, it seems, on the corporate level, which has to do with revelations about our planet. And this Zealandia topic that is currently being revealed is just a small smidgen, a small piece of what's soon to come. And I'm pretty sure of that because Zealandia, which is a part of New Zealand, once revelations even become more prevalent, you'll find out that Zealandia, Australia, New Caledonia, they're actually a part of a larger landmass that was called Lemuria or Lemuria. Lemuria is a landmass that was actually gigantic. And Malaysia, Indonesia, these particular islands were a part of Lemuria. It's in the Pacific Ocean. And that also includes Hawaii. Hawaii is the highest point of Lemuria. Underneath water, all of that water over there in the massive Pacific Ocean lies land masses that have sunken. There are even documentaries that you can find on various websites, professionally done by corporations that have spent their time and money to gather divers and all of that type of stuff with big budgets that have actually gone underneath the water and have been able to show different structures that were most certainly not created by nature. They have been able to shine the light on and give us knowledge of there certainly being a landmass that has sunken beneath the Pacific Ocean. And again, Lemuria is a gigantic, is an enormous landmass. On the other side of the ocean, over there by the coast of the United States, you'll find there too was another landmass. That landmass was Atlantis. Bermuda is the highest point of, well, one of the highest points of what is left of Atlantis. Now, again, there have been plenty of documentaries done by mainstream media, corporations that put out very high quality documentaries where they have sent divers all underneath the water and they have recorded the footage of statues and all type of things that were underneath the water, which to me proved that out in the Atlantic Ocean as well, there was a landmass that was once above water, that was once also inhabited. And Atlantis, therefore, is not a theory. It's not just a concept. It is actually something that exists if you were able to go underneath the water in the proper gear, you know, with the tanks and the mask and all of the stuff that you would need to properly dive to the depths, which is not that far underneath the water. As I mentioned, you have had divers who have gone underneath the water already and they've survived. So it's not that far down to where the depths of different parts of the land mass itself, but also there has been a lot of deterioration from the salt water, by the way, of the different structures that are underwater. And you'll find that this same type of very interesting artifacts that have to do with the landmass as well as different type of structures are also underneath the water over by Japan. Again, what I'm basing this on is documentaries that have been shown to me over the last, I would say here during the last week of February 2017. I would say this has been at least for 22 years. I've seen documentaries that have proven to me, well beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there once was a landmass that was above the water in that region, Atlantis, and the other one was Lemuria. Now, I'll always encourage you to take the time to research these things. If you don't like to do a lot of reading, then that's all good, because there are many documentaries about this very interesting subject matter. And something that takes it to the next level for me is also remembering that when this landmass existed, there was actually people that lived on it. Now, they may not have looked like we look today, we humans, how we look today, but most certainly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because of the structures and many other things that have been built and not created by nature, it proves that these land masses were once inhabited. Yeah, this is a revelation that's going to be becoming normal knowledge very, very soon. And I would say definitely by 2025, 2030, this will be subject matter that children, that high schoolers, and even those in universities will be learning as part of the typical, normal, standard, or what have you, curriculum. Lemuria and Atlantis. Now, right before we went to that little injection of the music, in that report that I compiled, I was mentioning Zealandia. And Zealandia is a topic that makes me very much wonder, why are geologists, why are they considering Zealandia a found continent, a new continental find? Why? Especially because 94% of the landmass is still underwater. I only have that wonder, I guess, because Lemuria, the landmass, is also underneath the water, as well as Atlantis is underneath the water. Why then aren't these geologists able to use the same instruments to mention the other parts of these land masses, like in this region where Zealandia is, and New Zealand is, and Australia also is in that region? Why aren't they mentioning the rest of the land mass that I'm sure they know about? You can't just see this particular area, which is part of New Zealand. New Zealand is a part of Zealandia. You can't just see that little part in that region. By the way, if you haven't looked at the map, you'll see that New Zealand is more westernly and more easterly, the way that the landmass is created, the way that it sits out there in the South Pacific. It's not possible for them just to see that particular landmass without seeing the whole region, because they are using instruments that would definitely show the readout from the landmass, which they were able to use to discover what we are currently in topic about. They certainly couldn't just see that particular little area. So that's why I prefaced this particular topic about the ancient land masses, Lemuria and Atlantis. That's why I prefaced this topic with how massive they are and how old they are. And since we know that they've been there for forever, as far as the landmass, the Pangaea goes, and there is another topic in itself. The Pangaea was when all of the land masses existed as one, before there was a continental drift. The continental drift was a thing that separated the land masses, because if you've delved into the knowledge just a wee bit about land masses and stuff like that, you would also see that Earth moves by what is called tectonic plates. So it is not far-fetched or silly or dumb to know about Pangaea and the reason why all these land masses are scattered about, big and small, or should I say massive, big and small, because the Pangaea theory, yes, geologists in science still consider Pangaea, spelled P-A-N-G-E-A, or P-A-N-G-A-E-A, they are still considering this landmass a theory. Although I know they have the instruments to be able to see underneath the water. And it totally makes sense when you look at the continents within themselves and you see how they could fit together. Like, for example, if you look at the African continent and then you look over there at the southern part of the Americas, if you look at that whole region over there, you will see how it easily looks like it would fit right into Africa if you were putting together a puzzle. So I tend to believe that this is not theory. And I think that the establishment, the quote unquote officials, the scientists, the geologists, etc., they are aware of that too. And by the way, right before the little time started for me to get things together, prepared for this broadcast, I looked up the man who actually came up with what the theory is called for the Pangea landmass. And it's a concept, or some say a theory, hypothesized by German polar researcher Herr Alfred Lothar Wegener, or we would say Mr. Alfred Lothar Wegener. And for your research, for clarification, I'll spell the last name of Alfred Lothar Wegener. The last name is spelled Wegener. Wegener. And he came up with this hypothesis in 1912. On top of that, Mr. Wegener was an astronomer, geophysicist, and meteorologist who is the originator of this idea of the Pangea, as well as the continental drift of the landmass Pangea going in opposite directions. Mr. Wegener was born in Berlin, Germany, November 1st, 1880, and he died at age 50 in November of 1930.
Edutainment wrapped in eclectic music. Topkats connection.
As we rewind back to Zealandia, I think that Zealandia is going to be a landmass that rises very quickly. And I think this is the main reason why the geologists have said, well, we're going to go public about this find. We're going to let the world know about this landmass, even though it is still 94% underneath the water. And I keep on scratching my head. I keep on wondering, why not mention the landmass that was also in the Atlantic, that Hawaii is a part of, and other little islands out there around Hawaii? Well, it may be because the landmass that Zealandia is a part of is going to be rising up out of the water real soon. How soon? Well, it's probably ongoing as we speak, because these type of things can be measured with the instruments that geologists have. They use all type of photography and things like that from different aerial pieces of equipment, satellites or what have you. So they can tell whether or not it's been rising. It can be actually measured. And I would not be at all surprised that this is the reason they're not sharing this with us. Maybe they just want it to be a nice, pleasant surprise or something like that. And that's cool. But when you delve into, research, looking into this type of stuff, you'll see that something is certainly ongoing with the land masses. And the person that is listening, or should I say that is studying what these geologists are saying, and you read between the lines, like I at least call myself doing, I realize that they're actually saying a lot more than meets the eye, so to speak. I realize that, again, this age contains a lot of revelation. The Aquarian age, moving from Pisces into Aquarius. The new millennium also brings along a whole different type of energy. Now, that's a little bit into the metaphysical area, but if you research that, you will find that this is something that is ancient as far as that topic, as far as this concept of different energy in time and space bringing along different type of results. Just like the Dark Ages was a particular energy that caused the Dark Ages, that for many who are into this type of field, so to speak, they can predict what's going to be going on in the heavens. And they say what goes on up there in the sky as above is the same thing that's going to be going on down here. So I think overall, this is what this has to do with. This is the energy of revelation during this time frame, according to people that are very well schooled and talented with disseminating this type of information. I guess at the end of the day, it just remains to be seen if that's just conjecture, or mental masturbation or something, or will it actually prove to be true? Because there is a lot of history there in ancient Lemuria, which is still sunken, in the South Pacific, and Atlantis, that is still sunken, that's over there in the Atlantic Ocean. There's a lot of human history there. There's a lot of, just history in general, probably that had to do with civilizations that weren't even considered human. And therein may be the very reason as well why that land mass is not being disclosed. They still consider it, the geologists still consider it theory. They still consider it an idea. Well, I guess all of this remains to be seen. I'm looking forward to the results, and I'm going to monitor this information and whatever else comes out soon, because I expect this to happen within the next 3-5 years, more of a revelation, more information pertaining to these land masses, and information comes forth. I'll do my best to compile it for you and to bring a report to you here on the Topkats Rebel Connection. My name is Pate, and if you are interested in seeing a video that has to do with this topic, there was one that was recently uploaded to the YouTube channel .com/TopkatsPride, and that's spelled TOPKATSPRIDE. You might find that very interesting, just seeing this whole topic from another perspective with a little bit more visuals added. You get to actually see what New Zealand looks like, as well as the beautiful landscape of mountains and water and it's just really a majestic looking tropical place. It looks like a tropical paradise. So Zealandia is currently the topic for the new continent that is rising, that has been discovered. Please go research Zealandia as well as Lemuria and Atlantis, because it's a great read and there's a lot of fantastic documentaries out there, as I said, and it'd be well worth your time. Until the next show, take care.